My feet hurt really, really bad. If you want to be able to answer a question that a genius can't answer, that question would be, why the hell didn't I bring sneakers? We have been walking everywhere, and I only have my dress shoes, and my dress shoes don't really fit me right anymore. And so I already have a blister from it. We walked we were driven to the train station and we got to sit on the train most of the way. But then we walked from the train station to the hotel and then basically got dressed, we were already dressed. We just put our stuff down, turned around, walked to the convention center. And the convention center is about a mile away, yeah, I'll just say it's a mile away. From the convention center, we walked back to the hotel, and then we got into everybody else changed. I don't have any other changes of clothes. I only have my dress clothes and my pajamas, so I stayed in my dress clothes. And then we walked almost all the way back to the convention center to another hotel where we were going to meet up with some other people from my school. And then from there we walked to the restaurant, and the restaurant wasn't too far away. Certainly wasn't a mile. And then from the restaurant we walked to the National Gallery of Portraits, part of the Smithsonian Institute, or at least it said so on the front of the building, and then walked all through that National Gallery looking at the portraits and the artwork and what have you. And we spent a while there. We were there for 2 hours, maybe? Close to an hour and a half to 2 hours. And always walking the entire time. And then from there, we walked to another hotel where they were going to have the Academy of Student Pharmacists welcoming social. And so we walked to that hotel, and then there were maybe there were chairs, but we were never near them at all. I never came within sight of a chair. So we were standing there and talking and eating and drinking, and then I played 2 games of pool, and I technically won both of them, but the first one I only won because the guy scratched the cue ball when he pocketed the 8 ball. And then I came back early because it's humid and it's crushing me. That's how humid it is. Nobody else seems to notice or mind. I'm from the desert, so I noticed the humidity, and it was kicking my butt. So I came back, took a shower, and now I'm in bed recording this, relaxing, making sure that my feet are good for tomorrow because I have to get up at 6 a.m. and there's a 7 a.m. presentation on community-acquired MRSA that a couple of us are going to go to. Other people are going to be smart and sleep. That's what I should be doing. When we went to the convention today, the first thing we did was we went to a presentation on the new drugs of 2009. And so there was a professor from a University of Sciences in Philadelphia, and he was basically going over 30 new drugs that came out in 2009, telling us about their indications and then comparing them to current therapy or current medication therapy. What are the advantages of the new drug over old drugs? What are the disadvantages of the new drug over old drugs? And then he gave it a ranking from 1 to 5, where 3, which most of the drugs got, means there's little or no added benefit to the new drug. 2 and 1 are its disadvantage. It has a disadvantage or a serious disadvantage compared to current therapy. And then 4 and 5 being it has an advantage or a serious advantage over current therapy. Like I said, most of the drugs got 3s because most of them, in fact, almost all of them were Me Too drugs. A Me Too drug is just where they bring out a drug that does the same basic thing as a drug that's already on the market. I hear like a phone ringing, but that's not my phone. Interesting. And so, yeah, they got 3s because they're just doing the same thing that drugs that we already have already do. They just, maybe slightly better, maybe not. And then a couple of them had 4s. One of them was a 5, and then a few of them were 2s. But I don't think there was a single 1 in the bunch. And we went to the bookstore that they had there, looked around at the different textbooks and what have yous that APHA sells. And then they had a raffle that was going to happen 10 minutes after we got to the bookstore, so we got to fill our names in on the raffle tickets. And we were the only ones in the bookstore, so the lady at the bookstore mixed up all the tickets and then let us pick out the 5 winners. And actually, one of us won. It wasn't me. And the girl who won, she won tickets to tonight's hockey game between Washington Capitals and Tampa Bay. But she had plans for tonight, so instead of that, she took a $50 gift certificate to a restaurant. The National Gallery of Art was the National Gallery of Portraits was cool. There's an art section to it as well. It wasn't all the first floor was all portraits, just all kinds of portraits, and spanning all different types of subjects. A lot of historical figures, and then just people. And it was very interesting to walk around. When you get up into the second and third floors, there was more arty stuff. And when I don't like modern art, there was a whole floor of modern art. And I'm not very fond of most modern art. I'm more of a kind of 16th, 17th century, 18th century kind of guy, where art looks like what it's supposed to look like. And it's not so impressionist. I like looking at art and then just, straight out seeing what it is. Even when you get into things like Monet and Manet, where I can't remember which it is, but they have just like markings, but it looks like it. Or like Starry Night. Starry Night, if you look at it, is just like a bunch of blotches, but it looks like a starry night when you look at it. But there was modern art. I will kid you not, one of the modern art pieces that was on display was a piece of black acrylic. Like, it looked like a countertop from a kitchen almost. And it was just leaning up against the wall. And that's it. There was really nothing to it at all. But it had its little placard about the guy who made this big piece of black acrylic. I said, no, that doesn't count. And then there was one painting in the modern art section that had 2 black stripes on it, and that was it. Perfectly, rectangular black stripes across the canvas, and that was all. I said, no, that doesn't count. But that's fine. 2 of the paintings that I really liked that I'm going to look up after I finish this video, one of them was called The Girl Left Behind Me. And I only memorized the name. I don't know who painted it. It looked pretty cool though. And then another one is called Descending Night, which also looked pretty cool. I wouldn't mind finding out who the artists were so that I can see other works of theirs. And then I played pool. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before. I played pool at the social, and I won both games. But the first game I only won because my opponent scratched the cue ball when he pocketed the 8-ball. And the table was tilted. It was on an angle a little bit, because all of the balls kept going up against one side. They wouldn't roll on their own, but every time you hit a ball, you could just see it slightly curving over to that one side of the table every single time. It was a pain. But there we go. I recorded this just before, but apparently YouTube stops it automatically, like just whenever it feels like. So this time I have to make sure that we haven't run out of time. And let's see if I can get under here and turn it off. Yep. Alright. Bye-bye till tomorrow.